long-term holders. What discipline do these people have? They're like, hey, take the money and run. It's like a Steve Young situation.
Right. We should note that
Hey,
it's
Jim, I hope
Sorry, Carl, just a reminder here. We're about 21 minutes past the time at which we had expected Facebook shares to start trading, as we are getting this headline from the Wall Street Journal about orders, difficulty with orders being changed or canceled ahead of this IPO.
Of course, we were supposed to have a lot of
Jim,
information.
you know, I hope. Sorry, carry on. I just wanted to ask Jim. You know, people were joking around this morning in a sort of dark humor way about bats and bat software and the experience we went through just a few months ago with their would-be IPO. Jim, is there a possibility this could be related to some software that is related to bats?
Oh, Carl, I hope not. If there was ever a time not to be the amateur hour, it's right now. This is the kind of thing that I don't want to see. I mean, I thought that if you weren't prepped for this one, when are you going to be prepped? I mean, I have to, we all must hope that it is just an influx of market orders and nothing more than that.
We should note here that, as you can imagine, Jim and Carl, the tensions are pretty high here in terms of the delay, and as we understand it, NASDAQ officials are actually on a conference call, not a media call, an internal conference call, presumably, to figure out what is delaying
We should also
trade.
emphasize the magnitude of what has to happen here. This is a huge, you know, they've run rehearsals, they had extra rehearsals, they knew that this is a tough technological feat to pull off.
What they are saying now is that this is a good, this is what is being said. It's a good thing that we're delaying it because we want the match to be good. We don't want to have people that have put in, Jim said don't put in market orders, a lot of people unfortunately did. So if you're going to put in a market order, you want to be certain that market order is filled as close to the actual opening on the buy side or sell side, and I think that's what's happening here.
I'm also hearing that there are a number of brokerages that deal almost exclusively with retail,
Right.
Likes of a Fidelity, for example. And from what I'm hearing, communication delays are nothing like they've ever seen. And so that may also be playing a role here.
Right.
You know, I'm
What
being
does
told,
that
in
mean?
fact, it means that they're not able to make the allocations, that they're just not being able to communicate, I guess. I got to find out more. But if you would go to at least why this is
If you
taking
put in a market order, let's just use Fidelity as an example. If you put in a market order in your account, you want to buy 10,000 shares on the opening. They're very worried that they're not going to be able to execute that for their clients at the opening print. So that's part of what's happening here right now to make sure that all the orders that are market orders, despite the fact that you've been advised not to do it that way, are going to be executed at the right price.
Hey guys, let me just break in and tell viewers, if you're just joining us this morning, tuning in to see where Facebook started to price, we were expecting the first trade at 11 a.m. initially. NASDAQ later said it would be 11:05, then 11:15 Eastern time. Of course, we're now closing in on 11:30 East Coast time, and still no trade has begun. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that traders are having problems changing or canceling their orders ahead of the Facebook IPO. And then, of course, Julia Borston here with me in Menlo Park. There's the added question about what the mood is like inside this campus that we're on right now.
Well, I think there's a huge amount of excitement when Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg rang the opening bell at 9:30 Eastern. But from what I understand, soon after that, the crowds kind of dissipated. A lot of people left. We saw a lot of people driving out to go home because they'd been up all night doing the hackathon, and a lot of people sort of headed back to their desks. So obviously, a lot of people in there are very invested in what happens once that stock starts trading. But I think they're watching it from their laptops, and the mood is pretty calm in there right now.
Guys, apparently we could have it at any moment now. We've just got a flash coming through from NASDAQ. It will be at 11:30, so within possibly the next 3 seconds. That's what's just hit the wires. It could be now.
It's 11:30 right now, guys. 11:30. That's what the headline said. We should expect the first trade at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. It is past that mark so far. Still
But it's an
no
indication they
evidence.
still believe they're on track. It's just a delay rather than a problem that could...
And we are,
Here we go, look!
there we have it. Facebook opening for trade.
42.
43.
$43 a share, up 13.1%.
So we
$43
priced at
a share.
39, priced at 39, open at 42.
Price at 38. $38
$38.
a share. And now, as you see it right there, $42, and let's call it 43 was the opening trade on Facebook. It might have been 42.90, I think, where they actually opened it.
I think it's 4205.
Was it
David.
42.05, Bob?
That's right, out of my bridge machine, 4205.
It was, and we see it, well, now it's there. Now it is officially a public company available for anybody to buy shares should they desire to do so.
And we should note the champagne is flowing here at the NASDAQ market site. We do have some officials joining us here within this fishbowl from where we are broadcasting, including Bob McCooey and our guest, J.D. Moriarty of Bank of America, who just toasted, actually, with their champagne glasses.
Jim, 42.43. What do you reckon? 42.43.
Look, it's not bad. I mean, obviously, I think that the volume's only 85 million. I would have expected more volume. This is a sign that there's not a lot of flipping going on. I think that's positive. It's a nice bump from where it did come public. But I got to tell you guys, if this thing goes below 40, it is going to bring out sellers, not buyers. That's my level to worry about the sellers coming in, not buyers.
Right. Hey, Jim, when you're taking a look at how this thing trades through the afternoon, I mean, it is 11:30. It is the European close, we should know. We close at the lowest levels of the day in Germany. Will that have an impact on the rest of the day in terms of how FB trades?
I think that if we see Apple go negative, okay, if we see gold reverse, gold's been going up, usually a sign that maybe something big in the works positive over Europe, then what will happen is a lot of the institutions that got stock will say, you know what, I'll revisit this thing on Monday, because that trade's been going on for some time, which is like, let's lock some things in, and probably nothing good happens over the weekend, something bad, and it's a different trade. So yes, I expect selling, not buying, just if it goes below 40.
Okay, 82 million shares traded in the first 30 seconds. The 42.01.
You know, Simon, I'm just, I'm sort of looking at things again, and I think I think we can say now that the reason we were delayed was selling orders came in. There was more selling once you got the initial indication of the print. Remind me, guys, where were we at?
45 is where our first.
I think it was 44 was when we went out. We went out at 44, and then we started to get then it went down to 42.
No, 45 at first was
45
was the first.
The initial sort of lockdown brought in selling, and I don't think, and David, I don't think it was retail selling. There was a retail feeling amongst some of the biggest brokers in this country that retail just wanted to hold. They said they wanted to hold. They said they wanted to hold, and you see where we are in terms of. I think we're at the low print now of the day.
Yeah.
I'm curious what your thoughts are, Gary, in terms of Facebook sucking the oxygen out of the room. We mentioned this earlier in the show, but as we were sitting here, technology overall is weaker. Apple has turned around and is paring its gains for the session, and we're seeing a lot of large cap technology down for the day.
Well, forget Facebook. It's been a terrible week. The news associated with everything this week, we were, obviously we've been focused so much on Facebook. Europe had one of the worst weeks that we've seen going back to the fall of last year. The J.P. Morgan news, I guess J.P. Morgan is probably a little bit happy about what's really going on Facebook, because the news that came out last night, in terms of the size of this book, everything else again being equal, very negative.
But there was a time when we thought that Facebook would re-enliven the stock market.
We did.
The headlines tomorrow on this are not going to be spectacular. It's not like the other IPOs where, the headlines were phenomenal, the pictures were phenomenal. This is for market sentiment after a tough week. This is not great.
Simon, I can't believe this thing is going to trade back to 38, but as David said, if these people that are telling me they think it will are right, then it's going to be a very, very different
And how
narrative.
wrong to suggest 39 then, yesterday, when they were right at the end when they were going to try and raise the price. Well, nobody wonders what they were told in response.
38, listen, it looks like they priced it very well.
Yeah.
It's not, the big story is Facebook, a social phenomenon we haven't seen. As Bill Gurley said, a company that comes along once every 10 years in Silicon Valley is now a public company.
And
that's the big story. The smaller story tomorrow, or perhaps right now, is that on its opening, it's after trading for 5 minutes, it's only up 6%.
The capital market story for me here is that I do not recall seeing the type of allocations that people